Hello students, welcome to biology classes. Children, we were discussing about the animal tissues. Now here we will go ahead with the muscular tissue. So the very first question of mine, that what is muscular tissue? Right? So connective tissue connects the different body parts. Epithelial tissue acts as covering of everything present inside our body. And muscular tissue, it is responsible for all movements in the body. So tissue which is responsible for the movements in the body is known as muscular tissue. As the name suggests, muscular is derived from the word muscle. That means muscles are something which actually help in movement, right? So here we are going to talk about muscular tissues. So you would often seen this for an example. When we breathe, what happens? The chest muscle move. There are some movement which keep happening in our chest, as just shown in this figure. Right? So if you try it yourself, breathe in and breathe out, and just keep your hand over your chest, and you can feel there is some kind of movement happening in your body. And that movement happens because the muscles which is present around your chest, it is expansion and contraction of the chest muscle, right? So not only in the breathing process, whatever you do, for example, if you are cooking, what you are doing? We are moving our hands, right? It is clearly visible in these two pictures. While cooking, the movement in the hand, right? The chef actually move their hand. So how are we able to move our hands? It is because of muscle which are present in our hand that we are able to move it. Similarly, when we are playing or when we are running, what will happen? What actually happens? Yes, our heart beats. So all movements are because of some muscles associated with them. For example, movement of heart is also because of heart muscle. The muscles which are present on the wall of heart. So because of the contraction and expansion of the muscles, the movement happens. Means heart is able to beat, right? So any kind of movement which you think of, whether we move our hand or heartbeat or walking, means everything, every movement involves muscular tissue. Now children, let us see that how do actually muscular tissues causes movement. Now, this muscular tissue contains muscle fiber. As we all know, fiber is one of the constituent of tissue. So even inside the muscular tissue, we have muscles fiber, as just shown in this figure. And these muscle fibers contain special proteins called contractile proteins, right? And those special proteins are known as contractile proteins, and these contractile proteins enable contraction and relaxation. So do you understand what do I mean by contraction and relaxation? Contraction or relaxation क्या होता है? Now children, let us see. For example, let us take an example. Now this is the example. Children, if you have a spring, right? So this is the spring. When you stretch the spring, it can get stretched like this. Now it is compressed. Now it is stretched, right? It is compressed. It is stretched. Again it is compressed. Now it is stretched. So this is the movement of a spring. That means when it expands, like in this case, in this first case, we see that it expanding and relaxing. This situation is known as relaxation. And when it compressed like this, right? So this situation is known as contraction, right? So this is contraction, relaxation. Again, when it compressed, it contract. When it stretch, it relax. When it compressed, it contract. When it stretch, it relax, right? So muscle fiber have contractile proteins, and the name itself derived from the property of contraction. So due to the presence of these proteins, muscle fiber can actually contract and relax, right? And this contraction and relaxation of muscles causes movement, right? So because when we studied about the connective tissue, even the connective tissue is made up of by different type of fiber, like the collagen fiber which provide strength, the elastin fiber is there which provide flexibility, the reticular fiber which actually provide the support, right? So they all are made up of either proteins or sugar or something like that. But in the case of muscle fiber, they are made up of by the special kind of protein that is known as contractile protein, and because of which they can contract and relax. And this contraction and relaxation of muscle fiber causes the movement, that is movement of the muscle. That is why if we feel to raise our hand, we are able to raise our hand, because the muscle fiber which are present inside our body, they are actually contracting and expanding, and because of that movement we are able to move our hand. So this is the basic property, right? That is the contraction and relaxation of the muscle fiber. It is the basic property of the contractile proteins. Now children, behind the movement in our body, now let us look at the different type of muscular tissues. Now we are going to talk about the different types of muscular tissue. Now basically there are three types of muscular tissue. First one is the striated muscles, that is known as skeletal muscle. Second one is the smooth muscle, which is also known as unstriated muscle. And the third category of the muscle is known as cardiac muscle. So we will talk about each of these muscles one by one. So first let us talk about the skeletal muscles. So this is the most abundant tissue in vertebrates, right? So it is the most abundant tissue in the vertebrate. So most commonly found is the skeletal muscle tissue. Children, as the name suggests, this muscle tissue is something to do with skeleton. So it causes movement of bones of the skeletal system. That is why they are called skeletal muscle. So connective tissue connect the bones and form the skeleton, and muscle tissue helps in their movement. Got it? Children, it is also termed as voluntary muscles. जो skeletal muscles होती हैं वो voluntary muscles भी कहलाती हैं. So why they are called voluntary muscles? Because these kind of muscles made movement which we are talking about, and that happens per our will, right? Like if we want to move our hand, we move. If we want to stop the movement, we stop it. I mean, the movement happens as per our will, right? So that is why these kind of muscles are known as voluntary muscles. For example, we can consider a movement of hand, or consider the example of jogging. If you feel like a jogging, you will jog, right? If you will make the movement, if you want, like you will make a movement if you want. You will stop the movement if you want to stop. So they are also termed as, children, voluntary muscles, because the movement is according to the will of person. Now children, they are also termed as striated muscles. Why they are called as striated muscles? That is because when these muscles tissue observe under the microscope, some light and dark bands have seen. So it is clearly visible in this picture. In this picture you have some bands over the muscle, right? Like this. So these are the bands which is present on the muscles, some light band and some dark bands, right? So because of the presence of these stripes or striations, they are called as striated muscles, and these alternative light and dark bands are called striations. So skeletal muscles are termed as striated muscles as well as voluntary muscles. Got it? Why they are termed as striated muscle and why they are termed as voluntary muscles? They are termed as striated muscles because some light and dark bands are present on it. Some striations are present on it. That is why they are termed as striated muscles, because these muscles move according to the will of person. That is why they are termed as voluntary muscles, right? So when you think of skeletal muscles, you can think of these examples, like when you play, it happens as per your will, or when you jog, it happens as per your will. So these are the examples of the striated muscles or the voluntary muscles. Now let us look at the structure of skeletal muscle tissue. How does it look like? Now in skeletal muscle tissue, muscle fibers are long and cylindrical. So as just shown in this figure, they are long cylindrical structures. Children, these are multinucleated structure. That means each cell of tissue have multiple number of nucleus, many nucleus. So these cells making up skeletal muscle tissue, they have many nucleus. They are generally long and cylindrical, just as shown in the picture, right? So they are multiple mitochondrial to meet the energy need. और ये जो skeletal muscle tissue के जो cells होते हैं, ये multinucleated भी होते हैं और मल्टी माइटोकॉन्ड्रियल भी होते हैं. मल्टी माइटोकॉन्ड्रियल क्यों होते हैं? अगर कुछ याद हो तो माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया का काम होता है एनर्जी से रिलेटेड. लाइक दे हैव मेनी माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया. व्हाई डू यू थिंक दैट यू हैव मल्टीपल माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया इन द skeletal muscle tissue? Because skeletal muscle tissue is something which actually help in the movement of our skeleton. That is why they energy level, we in order to make the movement we need a lot of energy, and to meet the energy level the cells of the skeletal muscle tissue have multiple mitochondria. Now children, where does the energy comes from? It comes from the cell. So we know that powerhouse of the cell is mitochondria. So more you have mitochondria, more the energy generate. So you can use that energy for different type of activities, for different type of movement. For example, you would have seen that if you are doing some exercise, if you are doing dancing, if you are jogging, you need more energy to do that activity. So because it involves continuous movement, right? And for these movement, you want your muscle tissue to show contraction and relaxation. So for that again energy is needed. So that energy comes from the mitochondria. That is why skeletal muscle tissue have multiple mitochondria. So when you look at the structure, it look like this as shown in this picture. In this there is the red color cylindrical structure which is the skeletal muscle, and all on that skeletal muscle they have a striation which is in the black color, and there are some blue color structure is there which are basically the nucleus. So multinucleated structure are this. So this is how a skeletal muscle tissue look like. Now children, in biology there is another important thing is that we should have the picture in our mind. Like for example, in muscle tissue we have the point just same shown in the figure, right? So diagrams are very important and very necessary. So children, please practice to make the diagrams. In every question if you draw the diagram, it will definitely help you, right? Now what is the function of a skeletal muscle? Talking about the function of a skeletal muscle, it basically help in coordinated manner or in the coordinated movement of limb, jaws, eyeballs, etc. So all type of movement, whether it is playing, cooking and all, it helps. It also involved in breathing process, because breathing also involve the movement in chest, so it also helps in the breathing process. Now children, we will start the next type of muscle tissue is known as smooth muscle tissue. Children, when we talk about the smooth muscle tissue, it is known as unstriated muscles. Talking about the smooth muscle tissue, it कंट्रोल्स इनवॉलंटरी मूवमेंट ऑफ द बॉडी। तो हमने स्केलेटल मसल टिश्यू की बात करी थी, तो वो वॉलंटरी मसल्स थे। अब जब हम स्मूथ मसल टिश्यू की बात करें तो इनवॉलंटरी मूवमेंट्स को कंट्रोल करता है। सो इन स्केलेटल टिश्यू इट इंक्लूड्स वॉलंटरी मूवमेंट एज पर अवर विल। इन स्मूथ मसल टिश्यू विल टॉक अबाउट द इनवॉलंटरी मूवमेंट्स, राइट? सो दैट इज वाई दीज मसल्स आर ऑल्सो टर्म्ड एज इनवॉलंटरी मसल्स. Children, they are also termed as unstriated muscle, because when these tissues are also observed under the microscope, the alternative dark and light bands on the of the striation are not found. So that is why they are called as unstriated muscle. So some of these example of smooth muscles tissue can be like our digestive system. We take food, the movement of food takes place through the alimentary canal. It reaches in the digestive tract, so it passes through the intestine, stomach and all. So those movement are the involuntary muscles, right? So the muscle which is present on that area are the involuntary muscle or the smooth muscle, because that kind of movement are not our under control. Children, these type of movement which are not our under control are known as involuntary muscles. So that is why these muscles are known as involuntary muscles. So let us look at the structure of a smooth muscle tissue. So as shown in the picture, the cells are spindle shape. So what is this spindle shape? Spindle shape क्या होती है? Spindle shape की अगर हम बात करते हैं तो it will be elongated as just shown in the figure. But both the ends will be thin and pointed. आप देख रहे हो इसमें कि जो दोनों तरह के एंड हैं, राइट? ये जो थिन एंड होते हैं ये टेपरिंग एंड्स होते हैं, पॉइंटेड एंड्स होते हैं. सो दैट शेप इज नोन एज स्पिंडल शेप. So smooth muscles are of spindle shape, so it looks somewhat like this as just shown in the figure. So here you can see the spindle shaped cell. So this is the cell which is the shape of a spindle. That means it is long, thin, but ends are pointed, right? Children, talking about the smooth muscle cells, they are uninucleated. Uninucleated मतलब यहाँ पे word आ जाता है uni. यूनी का मतलब होता है वन, एक सेल में एक न्यूक्लियस. सो दीज आर टू इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट ऑफ विच आर डिफरेंट फ्रॉम द स्केलेटल मसल टिश्यू. स्केलेटल मसल टिश्यू मल्टी न्यूक्लिएटेड था, स्मूथ मसल टिश्यू यूनिन्यूक्लिएटेड. लेट अस लुक एट द फंक्शन ऑफ स्मूथ मसल टिश्यू. Children, it helps in the movement of food along the digestive tract. So alimentary canal, stomach, intestine, जो यहाँ पे मूवमेंट होते हैं फूड के, दैट बेसिकली अकर विद द हेल्प ऑफ स्मूथ मसल टिश्यू. It also help in contraction and relaxation of blood vessels. So that is the very important function. So I mean when the heart pump the blood, so oxygenated and deoxygenated blood keeps on moving throughout our body with the help of blood vessels. So this movement also happens because contraction and relaxation of the blood vessels are there. So this movement is the involuntary movement. We cannot stop it, right? So that is why involuntary, in the involuntary purpose it helps. Now let us talk about the third category of muscle, that is known as cardiac muscle. So cardiac, what is the term cardiac? Children, cardiac is something which is related with heart. So it is also termed as heart muscle. You have heard about the cardiologist? Yes, cardiologist is the doctor that deal with the हार्ट. तो हार्ट स्पेशलिस्ट जो होता है उसको कार्डियोलॉजिस्ट बोलते हैं. कार्डियक का मतलब होता है रिलेटेड विद हार्ट. सो दिस आवर हार्ट इज बीटिंग ऑल द टाइम. सो एज वी आर अलाइव हार्ट विल कीप बीटिंग. So this beating of heart is also involuntary, but these muscles have little different characteristic than the smooth muscles. And क्योंकि स्मूथ मसल भी इनवॉलंटरी होती है, कार्डियक मसल्स भी इनवॉलंटरी होती हैं, बट देयर आर सम डिफरेंस फ्रॉम द स्मूथ मसल्स, राइट? दैट इज़ वाई दे आर क्लासिफाइड सेपरेटली एज द कार्डियक मसल. अब स्मूथ मसल्स जो होती हैं वो भी इनवॉलंटरी होती हैं और जो कार्डियक मसल्स होती हैं वो भी इनवॉलंटरी होती हैं, लेकिन इनके कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स में कुछ ना कुछ डिफरेंस होते हैं, तभी कार्डियक मसल्स को एक सेपरेट कैटेगरी में रखा है. Would you might think that the beating of heart is also involuntary? So we could have put heart muscles also along with the involuntary muscles or smooth muscles, but since there are certain difference they show, so that That's why they are classified separately. So these are unique muscles found only in the wall of heart. So that is why they are termed as heart muscles or cardiac muscles. Children, they are responsible for the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of heart throughout the life. So the heart keeps beating throughout the life. Now let us talk about the structure of the cardiac muscle. Structure की अगर हम बात करते हैं, then we will come to know that why they are unique, why they don't fall under the category of striated or unstriated muscle. Now children, these muscles have few similarities with skeletal muscles, whereas few other with smooth muscles. So that is why we cannot group under any of these. They have some properties of skeletal muscles, they have some properties of smooth muscles. So it has striation seen, right? Striation over there, however not so prominent. So this is the similarity from with the skeletal muscles. At the same time, it is uninucleated. It is the similarity of with the smooth muscle. Again, they are involuntary muscles. It is the similarity with the smooth muscles. So cardiac muscles have the combination of characteristics of skeletal muscle as well as the smooth muscles, right? So some of the character are similar with the skeletal muscle and some of the character are similar with the स्मूथ मसल्स. कभी ना तो इसको स्केलेटल मसल में रखा गया है, ना ही इसको स्मूथ मसल में रखा गया है. ये एक सेपरेट कैटेगरी है विच इज़ नोन एज कार्डियक मसल्स, राइट? So children, I hope that whatever we have discussed today, it is clear to you. Still you find any kind of difficulty, any kind of query, so children, please do ask, please feel free to ask, right? So in the next video we will discuss about the nervous tissue. Till then, keep revise, keep studying, stay home and stay safe. Thank you and have a nice day.